Hey, what's up, everybody? Gonna see my friend's podcast, another podcast with Scott Taylor here. And this week we're gonna be talking about Tim Burton's Batman, which I refer to as Batman 89. I don't know how anybody else refers to it. There's so many Batman movies out. But this was kind of the first one that originally kind of shot off or started off all the current Batmans, anyways. But I'm here with Scott Taylor. Hey Scott, how you doing, man?
I'm doing super, like a
Fan-
superhero.
Fantastic.
This town needs an enema.
Yeah. So yeah, I remember this Batman. I'm excited to get into this because this was I remember this when this was kind of being announced. I remember everybody going haywire because it was Michael Keaton, and up until then, Michael Keaton had really just been a comedic actor. You know, he had done Clean and Sober, which was his first kind of dramatic role. But when was the first time you saw this? First question is as I always ask.
I guarantee I saw it in the theater. It was 89.
Oh,
so
really?
I would have been like 9 years old.
Okay. All
so
right.
I remember it. I would have been keen age for Batmania and the toys.
Yeah.
I remember the Nintendo game.
Yeah.
So all of that, I was all in. I have specific memories of the Batman Returns era. So
Yeah.
I have more memories about that, but I don't have specific ones about seeing this in the theater, but I know I had to have seen it in the theater. I remember seeing it when it was released on VHS and seeing it in the stores with that case. I actually have
the black.
This isn't my original one, but the VHS.
That was
there.
it. I owned it too. Yeah.
With the single tail there, because I guess they figured out the rights to this logo with the single point on the tail.
Oh,
if you
really?
look at Batman himself in the movie, has 3 points.
Oh, wow. I didn't notice that.
Yeah, so they had some rights issues to begin with, but then they figured it out as they got to post-production.
Oh, wow. Damn, dude. I didn't even know that. I probably have the same one that you have right there. But do you remember, well, not remember, but did you know who Michael Keaton was?
I had probably seen Beetlejuice.
Yeah.
I think I'd seen Beetlejuice by that point. But other than that, no. I didn't have any, like, was Mr. Mom before that?
Yeah,
I might have seen Mr. I think I saw Mr. Mom.
Which we were going to do on the pod. We were going to do that one. And then Val Kilmer ended up passing. So we did a Real Genius. But yeah, he started with Night Shift, which was in 82. Have you seen that movie? Because that movie
I have not.
is
No, I have not seen Night Shift.
He was, I mean, I think he must have done an 8 Ball before he did any scene in that movie, because that he was just off his rocker on that one. A funny movie. It's directed by Richie Cunningham. What's his name? Ron Howard. And so he did that. Then his second movie was Mr. Mom, which to go from Night Shift to Mr. Mom was a total like 180. Have you seen? Oh yeah, Mr. Mom. You did see that.
Mr. Mom. I do.
And
remember
that one was
that one.
kind of that was that one again. I mean, it's one of my favorite Michael Keaton movies, because that's, I think, I don't know, like just his humor is so highlighted in that movie. It's really understated because it's a lot of kind of not non sequiturs, but it's more of like it's just humor. It's just low key. It's just these little quips. He'll say the line, the scene will be done, and then he'll say a little quip. But yeah, then he goes to Johnny Dangerously. He goes to Gung Ho, Touch and Go, The Squeeze, Beetlejuice, Clean and Sober, and The Dream Team. And then the Dream Team and this Batman movie came out the same year. But yeah, when he was announced as Batman, everybody was like, what? And then they immediately thought, oh, this is going to be like the campy 1960s. I think it was 66 Batman movie and series. And no, it was dark. It was great. Did you enjoy it? Like, how much did you enjoy it, I should ask?
I mean, as a kid, I dug it, right? Because it's you're seeing superheroes up on the big screen, and it's kind of for the first time in that scale. You know, there had been other superheroes type movies, but this was the first one that it was unapologetic about it. They get Jack Nicholson as top billing to give it weight, and they go with Michael Keaton, who's not known for this type of role, but they go with him, and you get Kim Basinger in there. It's great. It was something that hadn't been seen before.
Yeah. And I think you bring up a great point about the billing. I think they did the same thing with Brando in 79. They gave him top billing in that movie just to give it some legitimacy, because I think, you know, I look back anyways in my lifetime, and Superman was the first superhero movie. But I was, let's see, when that came out, I was 5, and I'm sure, like I'm like you, I'm sure I saw it in the movie theater, but I just remember having all the toys. Like I had the what's that little thing that
oh, the
and you look,
Viewmaster.
yeah, the Viewmaster. I had the Superman one, and I would just see all the pictures stills from that movie. But I had all the toys, and I loved that. And then when Superman 2 came out, so you have this thing of like where like superhero movies kind of Superman was just the thing that was it. I think they tried to do Batman, but they also had, you know, TV wise, they had Wonder Woman, they had Spider-Man, they had a Spider-Man series I remember seeing. But if you look in the 80s, it's just Superman, you know, basically. I mean, you have Supergirl, you have Flash Gordon that came out in, I think, 80, 81, Swamp Thing, Howard the Duck, and the Incredible Hulk TV series, which, to your point, a lot of, yeah, to your point, like a lot of those were just kind of, they had to make do with their budget, and you know, so they had Lou Ferrigno coming in as the Hulk, and which is clever. But now you see, I think this Batman was probably the first one with the CGI, the effects, the miniatures. They had a big budget, so yeah. I mean, did you see any other superhero stuff like I'm sure the Incredible Hulk? Did you watch that?
I remember seeing, I think was it Sunday nights it was on, maybe.
Yeah.
Because I think I remember seeing Muppets on Sunday nights, and I remember him walking away with a thumb out. That's the iconic part of it, right? So I remember seeing that as a kid, and just the ending, and you're like, oh, I missed Incredible Hulk.
Yeah, and that's weird. Isn't I don't know. Maybe you're different, but I remember watching all of these movies when I was a kid. Dukes of Hazzard, everything. And if you ask me now, I don't remember any really specific episodes.
Yeah,
even though I watched them religiously, I couldn't like tell you. Oh, I remember that episode. Oh, I remember when they did this in that episode. It's nah.
Yeah, you remember the ones that become, you know, zeitgeist of pop culture, like, you know, Dudley getting, you know, everyone remembers that one, but you don't remember the one where they went to the store, you know, and went grocery shopping, and hilarity ensued.
Yeah, so it was a time of, especially, and getting back to Michael Keaton, I think it was a time when he was kind of establishing himself. I think he did a couple of sitcoms that didn't do anything, and he did a couple of shorts, and he apparently he worked with Mr. Rogers on his TV show as a puppet, or maybe he moved some stuff. I can't remember what he did, but so this was his time, I think, to shine. I think he was trying to get into more dramatic roles because he did the Clean and Sober. Have you ever seen that movie, Clean and Sober?
I have not.
Okay, yeah, that was pretty intense, and you know, it's about him. He's like this, I think, architect or finance guy. I can't remember exactly what he was, but he has this, you know, he has this coke problem and drinking problem, and he's just a mess. He shows up at his friend's house at like 7 a.m, and he's like, "Hey, what's going on?" Yeah. Do you have a beer? You know, and he's just, the wife and him were just like, Jesus Christ. But he played that part so well. It was incredible. So because Tim had worked with him in Beetlejuice, and then somebody recommended him. I think it was John Peters, one of the producers of Batman, was like, check out Michael Keaton. And he's like, all right, yeah. But yeah, it was, and when it was announced, I think this was just like, what? What's going on? Michael Keaton, really? But I think he proved everybody wrong. I think because
do you have any others where like any other castings that you can remember where it came out, you were like, oh man, that's Stink City, and then it comes out and you're like, whoa, okay, I'm eating some crow here.
I think I would say Batman, but I think also Tom Cruise in Interview with a Vampire, because I remember Anne Rice was even like, what? You know, and I remember, because I had read the book too. I had read both of those books, the Interview with the Vampire and the Vampire Lestat. I had read both of those books, and I was like, Tom Cruise, well, this is just a movie star billion type of thing, you know, give it to the most famous person. But yeah, he did a really good job in that movie. But wow, I don't know.
For me,
how about you, dude?
It'd be Heath Ledger as the Joker. I
Really?
remember being at work and someone going, "Hey, did you hear? They said Heath Ledger is going to be the Joker," and I'm like, "Come on, like that's just no, that's not going to work." And this, Nicholson was my Joker. And I was completely wrong there. Arguably two different Jokers, but great and amazing and deserving of acclaim all over the place.
Oh, for sure. I think the way that Nolan did it too, I think helped just to make it grounded more in reality.
Mm-hmm.
And his approach to it in that movie and what is it, The Dark Knight?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it helped a lot to bring that kind of authenticity to somebody who's really like crazy and really psychotic. But yeah, that's a good one. I don't know what I remember thinking when he was announced.
Mm-hmm.
I just thought, but I remember we were working together when that came out, and also when we got word that he had passed,
Mm-hmm.
and that was heavy.
Well, even staying on the Batman line, Robert Pattinson being cast, and that was another one of a Twilight joke here. But the Batman is solid.
Yeah,
it's a really solid portrayal of a different Batman.
Well, I think it helps when they get dark with the character, because I think it initially, it was made in 38, 39, and he was kind of this. They made him into kind of like a scary kind of thing, even though it was comics and it wasn't. But it was always during the night, and I think it was inspired by one of the inspirations for it was Sherlock Holmes, so that he made it this kind of detective style brain, because he didn't have any superpowers, so he had to rely on on his wits, on his muscle, and his money. So yeah, it always helps when it goes darker. There's so much more possibilities than I think when people watch the 60s version of Batman, which was campy. It was fun. It was fun for, I think, the kids and that time period, but I think that's why everybody kind of stayed away from it in the 70s and the 80s, was because it was like, well, we don't want to do that. But I think what helped with this movie, 89, was they went back to The Dark Knight Returns, that comic, that graphic novel, and a little bit of Under the Red Hood, and things like that. So yeah, it's always better when it's dark. Yeah. So anyways,
there's a place for Mr. Freeze, right? And there's a place for Batman nipples. There's enough room in the building for those two things to coexist with, the dark and the broody. But you're right. When you get an actor in there that's not typical to a dark role, it gives them a chance to do something different and really to get seen in a different light.
Yeah. And I like Batman and Robin just because of the it's like a car crash. It's just like, whoa, this is so more closer to the 60s Batman than it was. But yeah, so and so this comes out in 89, and look at the top films for 89 was from 10 to 1: Dead Poets Society, Parenthood, Driving Miss Daisy, Ghostbusters 2, Back to the Future 2, Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, Look Who's Talking, Lethal Weapon 2, Last Crusade, and then Batman, which I think I read that Mel Gibson was up for the part of, I think, Batman, and he couldn't do it because of Lethal Weapon 2, which, we can go on about Lethal Weapon 2, but there's a lot of movies in 89. I think that was a banner year. There's a lot of good ones that are still mentioned and watched and admired even now. So such a great year.
Who doesn't do a yearly rewatch of Look Who's Talking, right?
I remember my friend dragging me to that. Well, not dragging, I went, but my friend, who was this kind of heavy metal, long curly hair, he looked like Slash, wore the jacket and had rings, and he would always drag me to Look Who's Talking. We went and saw that. We went and saw Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. That was fun. I wasn't really into it. I didn't know what it was, but he was like, we got to go see this movie. And yeah, but yeah, it's there. Do you remember? Did you watch? Did you watch any of these? I think the only thing I didn't watch was Driving Miss Daisy, but I've seen everything else.
Yeah, I think I've seen everything there. I think Back to the Future 2 surprised me it's not higher on the top 10 list of that year, because it felt like it was a really big deal.
Well, yeah. Well, at the time, it's weird to live through this, because at the time, and I think this is with the prequels and Star Wars as well, but at the time, the Lethal or the Back to the Future sequels were not. It wasn't. They didn't. What's the word? They didn't go over really too well at the time. I remember watching it, especially 2. I liked 3 a little better, but I remember 2 being like, I came out of the movie going, it just didn't hit me like the first one. And that sentiment was kind of like when I'd ask people about it. I remember one of my cousins went and saw it, and he was like, I didn't even like 2. And that was the sentiment, the general kind of consensus at the time. But now, like, I see these reactors on YouTube and stuff, and they're like, man, we love this as good as the first one. And yeah, so now and that's kind of like the prequels too. It's kind of like at the time, the prequels, nobody really liked them. They liked them because it was Star Wars, but it was that thing of, okay, well, it's Star Wars, but man, it could have been so much better. Mm-hmm. And now they're like, oh, because the kids have we grew up with 4, 5, and 6. And those kids grew up with the prequels, and they're just like, we love them. So yeah, time is.
It's a flat circle, right? Is that what we learned from Interstellar? That and a lot of crying and a lot of emotion, and time handles differently on different planets.
Yeah.
Excited movies: Batman, Indiana Jones, Rain Man. No, Rain Man. I wasn't excited for Rain Man. I do remember seeing it when I was younger, but I wasn't excited.
Well, I've never seen that movie, Rain Man.
Rain Man?
Yes.
Wow.
And every time, because I'm like, I see it on like a streaming service or something, and I'll be like, oh, that's for like a Sunday night, or that's for like when I'm not feeling well. And then when it's a Sunday night or I'm not feeling well, it's like, I'll just watch The Office again, or I'll just watch something that I've seen a million times. I don't know why. I've just always pushed it off. Another point I wanted to bring up too, which we share, is the Grayson trailer. Do you remember that? How big that was?
Oh yeah.
When we went to that WonderCon, and we were like, to that guy, we were like, when's this come out? He's like, it's just a trailer.
Yeah, it's just somebody made it.
Yeah. And we were, I mean, I'll speak for myself. I remember I was obsessed with it, because it was, at the time, you'd had Spider-Man, I think, coming out. Spider-Man 1 and 2, I think, were out. But he put in all of DC's heroes and villains, and it was just like, they could do it. Holy shit, they could do this. I mean, I wonder what that dude's doing now. I think I should have looked. Well, I looked at his YouTube page. I didn't look at anything else, but he's still doing stuff. I think he's directed a couple things, but that guy should have been big.
That was the first, that was right at the precipice of, YouTube and seeing what people can do with their own mind and their own resources.
Yeah.
It was amazing. And yeah, Grayson was so good. It's something that you definitely were like, yeah, I'd want to see that.
I mean, his use of forced perspective on a lot of things, like he had that statue of Batman, and it made it look like he was like 20 feet tall, and he's like, no, it's about this big. And I just stood back from the camera. That, I remember that. And if anybody's interested, you guys got to go. His name is Gabriel Sabloff, Sabloff, and he has a trailer called Grayson, and it's about Batman's dad. He got killed, so Grayson, he has to come out of retirement as Robin, and he has a wife and kid, and he goes to avenge his death, and he enlists Superman. There's Superman, Clark Kent's in there, Wonder Woman's in there, Catwoman's in there. I mean, everybody's in there, and it's a great watch, man. Do you remember what was your favorite part of that? Do you remember?
Dude, you honestly, you just bringing it up just sparked it in my head, and I haven't seen it in years. But now I just want to go back and watch it and show it to my daughter.
It's dude. It's very dramatic too. It's like comes in, you got to tell me what you know. Just moments.
I remember that part. Tell me what you know.
but it was just he just did every little scene as a trailer, which you have your pick of a whole scene, but he would just film what he needed, and it was great. So yeah, that kind of that appetite for the superhero movies. I mean, it was just as recent as 20 years ago. We didn't have a lot. We had Spider-Man and Batman, which kind of turned camp. But yeah, let's get into Batman because this is a great fucking movie. So yeah, we have Batman '89, Tim Burton, Michael Keaton. It came out with it was originally a 30 million budget, but it ballooned up to 48 million. It did 40 million in its opening weekend, and it ended up doing about 160 million worldwide, which Hollywood accountant math says we still haven't made a profit on.
Still in the red. It's currently in the red. It was the highest grossing for the weekend, though, right? Like that was the most highest it had ever been.
Yeah.
Something I was reading was that like that's kind of what started people caring about opening weekend. Like it was a longevity type thing before that. Yeah. And this was like, oh, you can get a big push that one weekend.
Yeah. I think before, especially in the 80s, it was how long can you stay in the theaters and what was the end gross and all that kind of thing. Those kind of tempo movies. This was like the first ones where it was like, what can we do opening weekend and how much are we going to do? Because I think the weekend after or before Last Crusade came out, and then that became the biggest one opening weekend. And so it was this kind of went from there, kind of hit. And and so like I said before, up until then, it was just Superman. It was just Supergirl, which the Superman movies kind of went the way of Batman. It kind of went from really cool, really strong movies to kind of camp. But you had Supergirl that came out in '84 with Helen Slater, Flash Gordon in '80, Swamp Thing in '82, which I do you remember Swamp Thing as a comic book? Because I think I want to say that Swamp Thing was more the comics came after the fact, but I guess there was a comic before. Have you ever read it?
I haven't read it. No.
Yeah, that was weird. That was the weird thing. And then Howard the Duck, which I remember. Let's see, I was 11, so I saw that multiple times. I think I saw it 3 or 4 times in the movie, which everybody hated to this day. And people hate it now.
Well, I mean, I was when was Howard the Duck? What year? 86. So yeah. So I mean, I remember seeing it on VHS, and I wouldn't have seen it in the theater, but I remember seeing it on VHS, and all of its glorious duck breast 3D. I wish it would have been in 3D when I was that age, but I remember seeing that. But I don't think I ever classified it as a superhero movie back then.
Yeah, I wouldn't either. I guess he had a comic line, and I never read it. That was the first time I ever heard it. But that was a George Lucas production too. A lot of it was filmed in Petaluma and the surrounding areas, and I'd never knew that. But then you have The Toxic Avenger. I don't know if you consider that a movie. Toxie,
yeah.
And he had I think the third one came out in '89, the same as Batman. So you didn't really have a lot of superhero movies. And so when this came out, this was pretty amazing.
Yeah, and that's why I didn't qualify or quantify Superman in there when I was talking about at the beginning, like this being the first big superhero thing, because that was PS pre-Scott,
Yeah,
and I saw it, I'm sure, on TV.
Right.
But I definitely was. If I saw it in the theater, I was seeing it from inside the womb.
Yeah, and for me, I think Star Wars was my first movie that I had ever seen in the theaters. I was 3. I remember being in the theater. I don't remember seeing it because at 3, I don't know. I think my mom was telling me it was her and my grandma that took me. And my grandmother, she didn't really speak a lot of English. So I think she just went for me. And my mom said I just sat there transfixed the whole time, and I remember I had the Millennium Falcon. I had the Death Star. I had all the toys too. It was fantastic. But
you really think, like, as a parent, you think about all these firsts and you want them to make an impact and be special when they it's going to set them on a certain trajectory, like first concert, first movie, like all that sort of stuff. And I think my daughter's first movie in the theater was The Croods. It was cartoon with Nick Cage. He's a Neanderthal man with his family, and Ryan Reynolds plays a young Neanderthal kid that has like new ideas and stuff. And of course, Nick Cage is set in his ways and trying to protect his family. But she doesn't care what movie she saw first. She didn't care. Like now, she's like, yeah, that was that movie.
Yeah, I think at the time too, it was such a cultural thing, Star Wars, that everybody just wanted to see that. I remember actually the first time remembering seeing it is on TV, I think it was. And then of course when we got our first VHS, which was around 81, 82, one of the first movies we rented was Star Wars. And I remember, so my routine in the summers, I would come from Sacramento to Healdsburg to stay with my grandparents. And what the thing was we'd rent some movies. And then back then it was just a 2-day rental. And back then it was, the video stores was the size of like a pawn shop now. Well, pawn shops now are big, but they used to be really small. And it was just like maybe 30, or not even, probably like 15 to 20 titles. And you would just be like, I want to rent that one and that one and that one. And then the girl would come and give them to you. And then, but it was Star Wars, The Cannonball Run, and Stripes. Those were the first 3 movies that we rented. Yeah. So anyways, Sylvester Stallone said this was kind of what he said about it was this was kind of the end of the action heroes that were all muscly, which I kind of agree with, because I think after this, the 90s was a really weird, not weird, but it was a turning point in a lot of stuff, movies and music, especially because 2 years after this, you had Nirvana, which changed the landscape of rock, especially. And then in 89, you had this introduction of Batman, which kind of changed the landscape of what action heroes are going to be like. And it was true, because I think Michael Keaton wasn't really a big guy, but I think that was the point of it, was that he put on the bat suit and became this kind of a big dude. But yeah. So any thoughts on the why this is kind of stayed as a popular go-to? I mean, even Nolan has said it's one of the best Batman movies.
I feel like there's a lot of nostalgia there too, and a lot of nostalgia bias, because I hadn't seen it it's been years before I watched it this time. And it's good. It's definitely, there are scenes there just to have scenes.
Yeah.
It's just to have this thing here. It's like, why is Joker going over to see Vicky Vale? He's just really going there to say, oh, my girlfriend died, and here's a gag gift.
Yeah.
But you're like, but it's there so that Bruce Wayne can see him face to face.
Right.
In person. And so it's a little, I don't know, jumpy at places, uneven for sure.
Yeah.
But it's still a solid superhero movie. It doesn't go too deep into the origin, which is great. It starts with just the fake out of the origin story for the true fans who'd be like, oh man, that's not the dad's name. Because I even did that. I forgot about it. I was like, that's not the dad's name. What are they doing here? And I was like, oh, okay, they got me.
Well,
so it still holds up.
Well, they did rewrite who killed his parents, which I think in the comics and the lore was Joe Chill. But here they have the Joker who did it, actually. And I was watching a featurette after watching it one of the times, and the writer was like, "Hey, I didn't do that. That there was a writer strike going on at the time, and they needed to they didn't have an ending, so they kind of had someone else write this ending, and then they did some other rewrites on some scenes, and so that was a bit controversial at the time too. Was this whole idea that the Joker was the one that killed his parents? For me, at the time I liked it. I don't really have a personal opinion about it either way. So, but I think. To your point about being it kind of uneven and stuff, I think even Tim Burton when it was released, I read a quote that said that he goes, it's an okay film. I think we're protected by a lot of, I think he did say nostalgia. I wish it was a better film, but it's basically just a film to show, here's Batman, I think he's come around a lot lately, a lot more in the last 10 years or so. It's a pretty good film. But yeah, I agree with you. I think, the use, Tim Burton didn't really read a lot of Batman. I think he said he was aware of the legacy of it, but he didn't really read a lot. So I think the fans, especially when they take issue with his use of guns, against in this movie, which he doesn't kill anybody with a gun, but he he has guns on his plane and on his Batmobile and stuff. Does that rub you the wrong way or anything? Or
yeah, there are the things that are that you hold on to for characters, right? Like, they can't do certain things, or they have to do certain things that you have to stay tried and true with. And with Batman, I feel like you can't kill people. This plan has to be not to kill people. And the guns kind of tie in with that. Like, what else? What are you going to do with those guns? Well, I'm not shooting the strings of the balloons with those guns. I have that handy dandy little MacGuffin claw on the front that's meant just to snap off balloon strings.
Yeah.
But there are scenes he goes in and drops bombs in the plant, right? There's people in there.
Yeah.
Even if they're henchmen, there's still people in there getting killed. I mean, we're having the Clerk's Death Star conversation about the Acme chemical plant. So there's people in there. They're going to die. And then you have, jumping to the end a little bit when they're in the bell tower, and he grabs the guy with his legs and just throws him. That guy's not surviving that fall. He's definitely not going to be like, oh, sorry, I hung on to the side. No, he's dead.
Yeah. And it's what you said about the clipping thing. I mean, when I see that, I remember, did you ever watch the 1966 movie Batman? So you remember at the beginning, they're going down to get onto the boat and the boat disappears and he goes into the water and he comes out with a shark and he's like, hey, Robin, give me the shark repellent. It just reminded me of like, how would you have, and then it was like shark repellent, something else repellent. It had like 3 or 4 different types of repellent.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like, oh, okay. I feel like it was a callback to that just because it's so silly.
Mm-hmm.
But what did you think about that movie? The 66
I love it. I'm staring at a poster signed by Adam West and Burt Ward and Lee Merriweather. Nice. I love that movie. And
yeah, me too.
When I went to get it autographed by Adam West, I'm sure he heard stuff all the time, the same stuff over and over. And I was like, oh, he was like, nice to meet you. He's like, well, what's your name? And my wife goes, Courtney. And he goes, Courtney, I wish I met you before you were married. And I'm like, did Adam West hit on my wife?
Jesus.
This is about me. I'm paying.
Let's go outside.
I'm paying for the autograph here. Focus on me. So then I'm like, it was either this poster or I was going to have you sign your autobiography. And he turns to the guy behind me and goes, Tony, this guy has my autobiography. And Tony's like, here's that every time someone comes up. It's like, oh yeah, I loved you in this. Tony, he loved me in this.
Yeah. You're the one. That would have been a good.
And I remember telling him, I was like, my favorite line I use just in my day-to-day basis still is, some days you just can't get rid of a bomb. And he just goes, that's a great line, isn't it? And again, he says that no matter what anybody says, it's a standard routine thing. But
right.
Yeah, that Batman movie is great. Is it a great Batman movie? No, it's silly. It's Batman's take on like Naked Gun, right? It's just ludicrous for being ludicrous, but it's amazing in its own right.
Yeah, dude. I mean, that movie, it's going around the YouTube reactors are starting to react to that stuff, and they all love it too. They're all, oh, this is so silly, and they had laughing and at all the right places, and yeah, it's so great. I remember seeing the reruns of that when I was a kid and thinking like, oh, this is the best, especially when they were at the fight scenes. And I had a viewfinder thing of that as well. I had stills of that. I had 3 or 4 of them too, and there were different stills. That and Electro Woman and Dyna Girl. Do you remember that at all? No. Okay. Oh, yeah. That was it was these 2 like superhero type of 2 girls, and it was kind of modeled after Batman and Robin, and so that was a good one too. That was in the era of like Sid Croft and all those kind of things. But yeah, anyway, so yeah, that was kind of like we were talking about the scissor thing. So that was kind of what brought me back to the Batman of '66. Was like, it was just kind of that little callback there. Let's see. Let me bring something up real quick here. What really kind of got me was the way that everybody started dying from Smilex in this movie. The makeup, isn't that the way Joker used to kill people? Was to kind of throw this gas at him, right? Wasn't that it? I can't remember.
I think there was a lot of him throwing gas at people.
Yeah, yeah. It was. I think that was the way that he killed a lot of people. Was that? But yeah, it was great. Let's see.
I love how they work in the after that moment. Like you can see when the newscaster dies on stage, right before she had got makeup put on her. So, it ties in. And then as the movie goes on, you just see these disheveled television newscasters.
They got a big laugh in the theaters. Yeah. I remember that. They got a huge laugh.
Yeah, it's subtle and it's never mentioned, but it's just you're putting A to B and B to C, and they've got these bags under their eyes and acne, and it's just brutal.
I think a lot of the things in that movie, especially with the bat suit, making that as kind of like, I think what they ended up doing, especially going up all the way through to, was it Robert Pattinson? I think this Batman obviously was the first one. So it showed a lot of the limitations. And you can see like when he turns, he has to use his whole body because he can't turn his head. And I think they addressed that in Nolan's too. And he's like, I'd like to be able to turn around and see behind me. But yeah, I think that suit, what did you think of the suit when you first saw it?
I mean, it's great, right? It's got the muscles in there, but not too many. It's truly like it is meant to be Kevlar and protective first and foremost, with a little bit of design to it. Like you said, future movies you go on and they reference, I want to, be able to move, and they're like, well, now you might be harder to take a knife, like you might take a knife easier because it's less solid and sturdy. But seeing it as a kid and even now, it's still probably my favorite batsuit. And same thing with the cowl. The cowl is great. It's molded to Michael Keaton's features, right? The eyebrows are there. They're not hidden. They're not buried into the mask. It's iconic for sure.
Yeah. I think too, let's see. In the beginning, when he first lifts the dude off the ledge and he's like, I'm Batman. When he's doing that, you can see there, I think at the time, I don't know if it's, but you could see he's wearing Reeboks, like black Reeboks, and with, shielding on the shins and stuff. So, and now, and the later ones, they use boots and stuff like that. But yeah, they used that same kind of thing. Cause I remember when this came out, then the TV show, The Flash, came out. Do you remember seeing that at all?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do.
Yeah. And so they used the same type of thing where it was kind of this, the suit with the muscles not too big, and so I think that was the beginning of that kind of thing. What this era Batman, they really didn't improve upon it. They just improved upon maybe the design a little bit and maybe the mobility of it, but they didn't really improve the cowl in terms of like moving it. And that wasn't until Nolan, I think. I think even in the first one, he couldn't really turn around and see anything. So. Yeah,
I think in the Batman, I think they did a better job of it because and again, it's kind of like what stage of Batman are you talking about, right? Like at the beginning, it's going to be either basic and what he could put together just to start, but then you're also balancing that against down the line tweaking it so that it's more maneuverable and efficient for him to use.
Yeah, I mean, I hate to spring this on you, but do you have a favorite Batman costume, or maybe even a Batman? Starting with 89 and going.
Starting
forward.
with because I mean, I my favorite. It's kind of like being born in Boston, and I have to say the Red Sox are my favorite baseball team, right? Like Keaton's my home team, Batman.
Yeah.
The comedy side of me loves the Adam West Batman, but going forward from that, it's tough. I might go Clooney. No, I'm not going Clooney. I like the Robert Pattinson one a lot more than I thought I would like. And it's more about the portrayal of Batman, right? Like just the costume wise. Yeah, it's the Michael Keaton Batman for me. It looks like it came out of a comic book. It's not shiny. It's not glitzy. It's meant to be hidden in the dark. So it's that matte black. That's the key one for me there is the Michael Keaton one.
I got to say Keaton too, just because he's the one that popped my cherry in terms of Batman. Adam West, but I'm '89 and going forward, yeah, Michael Keaton. But in terms of suit, I think I like Ben Affleck too. I like that suit a lot. And but like to your point about where at what stage are we seeing Batman? The Robert Pattinson one was really cool because he had his cowl, but it wasn't attached. He had this really long kind of like collar. So, you couldn't really get to his head or anything sensitive. And he took some shots too in that one. He took a full like shotgun blast to the chest in that one. But yeah, I think Keaton and that suit. But then I like, again, I think I like Affleck comes in second. I think with his not only his suit but the performance of that too. I think it was kind of cool. It's interesting because he was playing the older Batman. Kind of at the last limbs of the Dark Knight Returns type of. Do you ever see that comic or see the animation?
Yep,
that was a pretty cool one where he gets messed up by those mutants and yeah, that was a good one. But yeah, that was kind of I love that iteration of Batman, the older Batman too.
To be honest, when you said Ben Affleck is Batman, I went, Ben Affleck was Batman? I honestly didn't remember that Ben Affleck was Batman. It went straight from like Clooney straight up, and then it's just skipped Batman.
Yeah.
I skipped Affleck. Sorry, Affleck. I know you're listening to this.
Those movies were kind of a mess because if we're talking Batman and the lore and all that kind of thing, those kind of things, Zack Snyder, to me, that dude could direct an action piece, right? I mean, he can direct the crap out of that. I think his weakness is storytelling. I just don't think he's a good enough director for those kind of things. I think he's kind of like he's up there with Michael Bay. Michael Bay can make these set pieces and these action scenes, and I love it. But as far as storytelling, I don't think that he has. So those movies to me they're good to look at, and any scene that they have, any scene that they have, like the superheroes together, is great. But I think the storytelling, it just takes me out of the movie, with the decisions that he makes and the story points and all that kind of thing. So although I like the looks of them, I don't really revisit them a whole lot, even though I own them. I just don't think he did it justice. I mean, no pun intended, but to kind of anyone's lore, so I don't know. What did you think of those movies?
I enjoyed them enough. They're like, one view for me.
Yeah.
Like, I'm like, okay, I get it. I saw it. I saw, the Supermans, and I saw the Justice League. Now, I have not seen the newest Flash with Michael Keaton reprising the Batman role, so I can't speak on that. I haven't seen it. I wanted to, just never did.
It's the same. It's more of like, it looks good, but I wish, Michael Keaton was great in it. It just doesn't, those kind of movies now in the last, like, I would say 20, 15 years, maybe, it's all the flash. It's all, or not, no pun intended again, but it's all, how pretty it looks and how good it looks. And then you get to the story and it's like, okay, it's good to look at. I think they need to have a mixture of Nolan and the way he can tell a story and the way he can kind of film certain things and IMAX and all that kind of thing, and then like Snyder, have one director that can kind of capture those two things, and I think you can have a super movie, or great movie, I should say. But yeah, I mean, I have those movies too. And each time I watch it, I'm like, well, maybe I just didn't get it. So I'm always hoping that it's, nope, same old movie.
Nope. I was right. I was right the first time.
All right. So let's see here. Let's just, well,
since we've talked, veered off a little bit about straight up 89, talking about the Batmans, can we talk Batmobiles?
Oh, yeah.
Like what? So let's say now, not Daily Driver, right? Is Daily Driver, that's a different decision about gas mileage and, how's this is it a stick shift because I'm in, going up and down hills a lot. It's a lot.
Is it electric?
Yeah. It's a lot of those decisions, but just for what you would like to own to drive around on the weekend or just have in a garage, which Batmobile would you go with?
Oh, jeez, that is a great one. You know, I would think, you know, I'm torn. The Tumbler from Nolan's Batman and Burton's, like I think part 2, I think I like that one a little better because it's a little more dynamic. Part 1 is great too, but it's a little understated, but comparatively to 1 and 2. But yeah, that first Batmobile still, like, again, it's like this is the first one I saw. So, but I love the realistic, practical ability of the one from Nolan, the Tumbler, or I think that's what they call it.
Yeah, the Tumbler.
Yeah, and the ability to change into a motorcycle, and how that was amazing. And so the durability of that one, plus, but I love the technological kind of marvel that is the first one. So it's, I don't know, those two are a tie for me. What about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think even Daily Driver or Own, I think it has to be the, Adam West Batmobile.
That's in play. I forgot.
Yeah, like it. But if we're going 89 forward, it's got to be this one, right? It's got to be the Michael Keaton Batmobile, whether it's this one or Batman Returns. It's just the stylish aspect of it, and being able to have that and look at it in a garage or take it around the block.
Picking up Casey in it.
Yeah, I mean, you can actually, if you do the Warner Brothers tour down in LA, they have part of it is like a Bat Cave, and it's all that. Now it's the Justice League stuff too, but they have the Batmobiles there, and they have the Burton one, and they have a bunch of different Batmobiles there, in like a big room, kind of like a Bat Cave, and it would just be great to just drive around.
Yeah, that would. I think I went to a car show in San Francisco at the what's that arena there? They have the
Cow Palace,
Moscone Center.
Moscone.
The Moscone Center there. Well, that was where WonderCon was, right? And probably in the early 2000s, I went there, and I think they had I remember seeing the Batman car up close at a car show. Maybe I even went to Universal Studios, or Warner Brothers Studios, whatever. But yeah, I think I'd seen it in person once, and it's great, man. It's cool. To see it up close like that. And then, what was really cool too was how they did the special effects when he said shields, and then it was to see that you could tell that that's like CGI, but it still was great. It was still like, man. Or when he stands there and he goes, stop.
No, when he says stop, does he have to voice control things? Like, otherwise, how many people did it run over on the way to him? Like, it's like, find me any way possible, and it's just plowing through pedestrians left and right. It's like stop, Waymo. Just Yeah,
it was Waymo before Waymo, man. Holy crap. Yeah, and another little bit too was he doesn't have the guard. So when he's all, who is it? And they're lifting up his cowl. Like in the other iterations and in the comic book, he has that little ow, thing to make sure that no one can see it. And then supposedly, I guess Vicky Vale got a shot of his cowl, but it's so close, and I don't know.
She was so high up, like that flash on that camera, that wouldn't have done anything. She would have got a really good, really good view of the catwalk beneath her. Yeah, right. But
exactly,
that light would have just bounced off the sides and been sucked in.
But they always have to have, I think, and I think the Batman Begins, I think, kind of stopped there. But I think in all the Batmans, they even with the Schumacher ones, two Schumacher ones, those 4 Batman ones, which I own all 4 of those. But they always have to have the ninja that comes out and to show Batman's kind of versatility in his fighting styles.
I don't even know what happened at the end there, like the bell tower with the ninja and the things on his feet where he's like flying at him for like 14 seconds straight. It's just in the air, airborne coming at him. Does Michael Keaton hit him in the nards? Like, does he hit him in the nards? Could he have just like stepped aside and just waited for him to come by?
Well, that was, interesting enough, Vicky Vale was supposed to die at the end, and they changed. They were like, no, you can't kill Vicky Vale. So they had to rewrite that scene. And Jack Nicholson was like, okay, so why am I coming here? And why am I climbing all these stairs? And the producer on the set was like, oh, I can't tell you. I'll tell you when you get up there. And he was like, I just couldn't tell him that I didn't know why, So yeah, that whole ending was rewritten. And you can kind of tell. Now that I know that, you can kind of tell. I'm like, oh yeah, why is he coming up there? But now it's because he has to. That's how he escapes. But yeah,
I saw one theory about the end, and with Billy D. Williams being in there and being Harvey Dent and being Two-Face, and the word on the street is that they didn't want a black man playing Harvey Dent. They just didn't want that, and which he would have been great. Billy D's awesome, and so that at the end, like the Joker was gonna be alive and be at trial or whatever. Or the other theory is the bag that's pulled out of his pocket that's laughing is like a kill switch. And so at the end, you see Billy D giving that last speech up there, and the commissioner or the mayor is right next to him or whatever, and who would have it on him and would pull that out and it would explode. And then that would create the Two-Face aspect of it for the next movie.
Yeah. Well, I did read too also, to piggyback on that, I read that he wanted to do Two-Face in Schumacher in Batman Forever, and then they gave it to Tommy Lee Jones, and he was just crushed. He was like, "What?" But yeah, I think you're right. I mean, Billy D was the man, especially after Empire Strikes Back. I mean, he was doing the Cavassier commercials, wasn't he, or some sort of malt liquor commercials? I can't remember, but he was just stuck in that role, and I think Harvey Dent would have. I think it would have been nice to see him in that. But yeah, good one on the Batmobile, man, because let's see here. Well, you got any final thoughts? You got any final thoughts on the movie? Sum it up.
Whenever I hear you say Vicky Vale, I just think Vicky Vale, Vicky Vale, like Prince. We got to talk about Prince doing the soundtrack, right? Like, what would the modern day thing be if there was a movie like this? And
Pharrell, maybe.
Yeah, I could see that, like, because it was like a big deal. It's like music, and it's not just a song. Like we know all those soundtracks where you've got Seal, Kiss from a Rose.
Yeah.
You get the band that has, you get Dashboard Confessional for Spider-Man 2 or 3, Vindicated, right? One of those. So you get just that one song out of them for the album, and it's the one that they make the video with the clips from the movie, and then it's just the singer singing the song and then the clips from the movie. With this, it's Prince. It's just all Prince. Like, it's Danny Elfman for the instrumental stuff, which is amazing. The Danny Elfman Batman score is great. But you just get Prince, and you get the Bat Dance. I watched the video for it last night.
Yeah, I remember.
In prep for this, it's like 5 minutes long, and it's just little clips of the movie just broken into the sound of it, and like Vicky Vale, Vicky Vale,
her scream.
Yeah. Just having Prince involved at that level, just they were going all in with that. Like, they got Jack Nicholson in there, and they're like, let's just double down and just throw Prince at it.
Well, I think that was an afterthought. I had read a story that it was like during the last legs of post-production, and they were like, "Oh, we got to get Prince. Prince wants to do some songs." And I think Tim Burton was like, "I don't care," And after the fact, he was like, "Yeah, it seems out of place, but
So
whatever."
if they added that after, I want to know what Jack Nicholson was dancing to in the museum scene.
Well, no, I mean, that's true. Maybe I meant to say it was in the later part of staging of filming, because I think that especially the parade part too, when he's like, boom, boom, boom. I think it was like they needed music for those things, and I think that's when they called Prince to do it. And Prince was like, "Yeah, I'll do it." That dude could do anything.
It's probably a little higher tone, probably like, "Yeah, I'll do it."
I'll do it.
I'll do it. And then he just hides. He just comes around a corner.
Where is he?
He comes around a corner and goes, "I'm in." And then just slinks away like Batman.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, movie-wise, it's good, right? It's a lot of nostalgia in there. Jack Nicholson, great as the Joker. He lets the craziness out, but they tweaked the Joker, his backstory with, he's a mobster, and then he, who's just kind of crazy on the inside, and then this just gives him a reason to let it out, right? And be full on facing crazy, a narcissistic, right? And that's all the scarring happens there, is it's a reason for him to be crazy and just let it out and do what he's always wanted to do. So it's all about him. It's just his focus on himself. None of it is about anybody else in the movie. It's just about the Joker. And when you talk about, I looked this up because I was like, someone had to have done this. The screen time for each character, right?
Oh,
so
wow.
Vicky Vale, 55, 64 minutes, Vicky Vale. She's got the most screen time in a Batman movie. Then you've got the Joker at 40 minutes and Jack Napier at 15. So we're talking 55 minutes there. And then Batman is 30 minutes and Bruce Wayne is 30 minutes. So you get about 60 minutes there.
That's his like a little metaphor for his personality too.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's very, very down the line there. And Joker, 40 minutes versus Jack Napier 15. So that's more his personality, that he was more the Joker to begin with.
Yeah.
But you've a big part of it. It could have been called Batman and the Joker, right? Because and that's Jack Nicholson got top billing. He's the main focus there. Is the Joker.
Well, he negotiated too a part of the back end, and it estimates that he got about up to 90 million for this movie, just from back end stuff. So
it's a classic Joker, and it's what we think of a lot. I mean, nowadays it's like you think of the Heath Ledger Joker.
Yeah.
But and the newer Jokers, Heath Ledger type Jokers, are more like about the mental health. Like they're like, yeah, they've got some mental health issues going on. And with Nicholson, it was more just he was a narcissist and just self-centered, and that was at the front of it all. But he does a great job. And are we doing a game 6?
Yeah. Yes. Do you have one?
I would go. Is it Robert Wall?
Yeah.
As Knox, right?
Yeah.
I'd go with him there because every scene he's in, he's it's funny. Adds the humor in there. You're like, yeah, this is kind of the news person that I would expect to be in this situation.
Yeah. Can I have a grant?
Yeah, get him a grant.
Oh, and give Knox a grant. Yeah, he was that. Yeah, he was a really good one. My Klay Thompson is Bob. I had seen him before that. I'd seen him in the Newhart show, Bob Newhart show. Mm-hmm. Do you remember? Do you ever see that?
Yep.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, he had this is my brother Daryl. It's my other brother Daryl. And so yeah, every scene, and it was sucks when Joker just gets pissed and is like, "Gun, please, Bob." Man, what a way to go out. But yeah, every time he's so loyal and he's so like, whatever you want me to do, I'll do it. And what does he say? Oh yeah, he's the one that says, "Check his wallet." And when they get Batman down. So that's my Klay Thompson.
You could also go Eckhart, right? You go with Porkins.
Porkins from Star Wars.
Star Wars.
I'm glad you knew that, because I was going to actually bring that up, and it's in my notes and stuff. I just never got around to it. But yeah,
you could go Porkins there. But his voice always gravelly, just like just the graveliest voice, like Tom Waits as a detective.
I just shot.
Bring him. I want him dead. Bring him up to the house.
Bring him up. Yeah. So yeah, that was great. Cool, man. Well, I appreciate you going down memory lane.
Yeah.
And I'm Batman. I suggest everybody go see this. My final thoughts is that it's a great movie. Everybody go see this movie. I think it's a staple. I think it starts the whole kind of comic book thing. We get Spider-Man, and we had Superman before, but like I said, it was just Superman, and it kind of got more campy as it went. And although we can probably do a podcast on the Superman series, the Christopher Reeve Superman series, that'd be sweet. But yeah, great movie, great soundtrack, great acting, good story, just to start it off. And yeah, I suggest everybody go out and rent it, see it, stream it, whatever you do nowadays. So yeah, thanks again, Scott, for doing this. And thank you, everybody, for listening. And if you have your favorite Batmans, or what do you think of Batman, favorite car, Batmobile, whatever, suit, I'd like to hear about it. I know Scott does.
Scott's do you like movies where Gotham is portrayed as being constructed by old submarine parts, or do you like your Gotham constructed, like it's Chicago? Which one do you prefer? Write it down in the comments.
And with that, we'll see you again next week. Thanks, Scott.
Bye.